Hi, welcome to Surviving Motherhood. Okay, I have the privilege of speaking at City Rescue Mission's Women's Shelter for their chapel service. And this time I am going to be speaking from John chapter 8. You might be familiar with this story. It's when Jesus is in the temple and he's teaching the people. And the Pharisees and some of the teachers of the law bring in a woman before him. They just kind of throw her in front of him. She's been caught in the act of adultery, they say. And they say, in the law, Moses told us that such women are to be stoned. Now, what do you say, Jesus? And then you can kind of skip over this verse that I have sort of not paid much attention to for, let's see, I've been a Christian for 20-some years, so about 20-some years. It's this next verse. It says they said this in order to test him. And then it goes on into what he did. And most of the time we focus on the what he did part. But as I've been studying and preparing to give this lesson to the ladies, I learned something very interesting about that. They did this to test him part of it. See, if Jesus had condemned the woman, then the men who brought her before him could have accused him of putting himself in the place of, the Romans. They were the ones that had the authority to condemn a person to death. So if Jesus had condemned her, they could have said, hey, what do you think you're doing? You're acting like you're one of these guys. If he didn't condemn her, then they could have accused him of not honoring the law of Moses. They could have said, what are you doing? You're coming in, you're changing all these things, blah, 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 blah. So as I did that study, it occurred to me, these Pharisees, these teachers of the law, had no care whatsoever for that woman. They weren't really concerned about her. They were concerned about tripping Jesus up, about finding a fault with him. But in their attempt to find a fault with Jesus, they have completely humiliated this woman. I mean, can you imagine what it must have been like to be her? To be ripped out of what you shouldn't have been doing in the first place. I'm not going to argue that. But then to be brought in front of all of these people, strangers, probably some neighbors, maybe some friends, people you know, and completely and probably quite literally laid bare in front of them. And yet Jesus, he is so brilliant. I just love this. Because if you know the story, you know then that he ultimately says to them, what do I say? I say the one of you who is without sin, you go ahead and cast the first stone at her. He knew that none of them were without sin. And in fact, in the research I did, I learned that adultery was quite a prominent thing at that time. Perhaps nothing has changed over the years. Anyway, probably a lot of these men who were accusing this woman of what she had done wrong were guilty of it themselves. So Jesus takes their wicked intentions and he turns it around and they all leave, and then he is left with this woman to show compassion to her. She was guilty. She deserved punishment. But Jesus didn't punish her. Ultimately, he went on to take her punishment. But I thought, what a beautiful thing that was. This woman was totally not cared for, just a tool that these men were using. But Jesus showed her compassion. He showed her love. He gave her another chance. He said, go now and leave your life of sin. Instead of dying, instead of being condemned, she was given another chance. And so I'm excited to share that message with a bunch of women who need another chance. But I'm also eager to share the encouragement with you, because I wonder if you might find yourself in a situation today where maybe you're feeling like somebody doesn't care about you. They're just using you as a tool to hurt somebody else. Or maybe somebody just isn't caring about how you're feeling, about how their actions are affecting you. Can I encourage you, if you're in one of those positions, to remember that Jesus knows, he sees. God sees your heart and He knows your circumstance. And He has this amazing way, of reaching out and showing us His love and His compassion and His care for us. And I pray that today you will experience that love, that compassion. You will know that Savior. Now have a wonderful, Jesus-full day.